So have you ever thought about changing your bike seat? I want to jump into a little bit more off-season focus because the last thing we'll be doing regular season is going out there and changing your bike seat and having to get used to that, especially if you're getting pretty close to a race. A pretty important key interval, especially 70.3 distance, 140.6. You're going to spend a lot of time on that seat. The Olympic and sprint, you probably get away with changing your seat, being a little uncomfortable for a little bit of time. But once you're spending 3 hours, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, it's going to be integrally important because that could affect the rest of your race, whether you actually get off the bike and do the run, because muscles could do different things. So we're going to kind of go over some ideas, talking specifically about your bike seat and what's out there, my thoughts on the best practices to either find something that works or what to do in order to get used to a new bike seat, and the proper protocol to integrate that into your training, especially the off season. Because now it's time to start fiddling with stuff. You know, any races coming up in the near future. Spend some time on your bike. You might get some 1-2 hour rides in on the weekend, something like that, but it gives you a little bit of time to use it. So let's start off. There are many types out there. Your standard bike seats. So if you look down here, they're pretty standard. You know, this is kind of your standard shape. And for an example, I got one of the seats off that came with my bike, kind of standard. It's just a regular bike seat. You know, it's not anything crazy. Personally, the lows are a little bit longer for the guys and gals. Kind of rubs on a couple sensitive areas that could over time be a problem later. So that's your standard. Then you got some split nose. So this came with my QRPR6. I have since switched out to a Cobb 55, so it was a little slimmer in the nose area, so it didn't rub the inner thighs as much, but we'll get to that later. So there's split nose, there's a short nose. So basically you kind of just chop the end of the nose off. So the rest of the seat's regular, so all your sit bones stay in the same area. They got ones that are a little bit extra wide, so you look down here, you know, if you're totally about comfort and you're not necessarily concerned with, you know, saving weight on the seats or getting the latest Whizbang seat, you get them wide. You get them slim, so you look at this, there's a little bit extra slim, so you're not going to get as much support on the sit bone area. But, you know, maybe you're doing sprints and it's not that big of a deal, or maybe you've done enough riding that, hey, man, you're calloused up, you're good to go. It doesn't really bother you as much, and you can go out there and do a ride till the end of the day. You're in the time. But there's also ones with more cushion, so if you look here towards the end, you're getting more gel, more foam, more whatever, just to get more cushion. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. If that gets you through an Ironman distance triathlon and all the training that goes up to it, and you're not rub raw, you're not getting saddle sores, all kinds of other stuff, more cushion works for you, then go with it. The only thing I caution with more cushion is just kind of with shoes, it kind of wears out over time, so you might have to kind of replace it more often because that cushion, you know, there's cushion in here, and just with anything, over time, it kind of degrades and kind of compresses, and it doesn't rebound as much. So that's also another consideration. Got the same bike seat on for 10 years and you're doing this, might be trying to same model, same brand, same everything, but just switch it out and get some new cushioning on there. So what you can do is, instead of just going to the bike store or instead of just going online and searching out the best seat and kind of looking through and just gauging online without any real input, some brands will send you a demo. So if you go to their website, like I think ISM will send you demo seats. There's a couple, Domo, I think it is. I'm sure I've butchered names or anything, but they will send you a demo saddle. It's like bright green or something, so you know it's a demo saddle. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the same exact model as everything else, but they'll send you a few demos that you'll mail back to them. So you can go out and you can try them, you can ride around. So that's kind of nice. Maybe some bike stores, maybe they'll have a demo that you can ride around, or at least throw on a bike on a trainer and kind of ride around in the store or something like that. Or maybe you can throw a helmet on and go ride out in the street real quick. Just something to actually like sit on it before you decide to buy it, because some of these are not cheap. You know, this one probably is around the $100 range. I'm a big proponent of eBay and looking at deals on there. I got my Cobb 55, it was new, but it was about half the price that you'd pay if you just went on the Amazon or someplace else. So there are ways to get them a little less expensive, but it's still pretty expensive to just go buy one and hope it works. Because like I said, this one's just, you know, the seat I have now is just a little bit more narrow, and it makes tons of a little bit of difference. So it's just hard to really know what the difference maker is going to be unless you actually get the seat on there and try it out. get at least 2 to 3 rides around for each saddle that you test. So if you get some to test out, do them 2 or 3 times at least minimum. Try to get in around an hour each time. You know, zone 2 workouts are probably the best because you're not going to work it too much. But try to test it outdoors if you can. I know right now at the time of this video, it's the end of November, beginning of December, so it's a little tough. Today, I think it's supposed to be in the 60s. So there could be a potential to go outside and ride it. So if you can get a demo saddle and keep it for a little bit, maybe the opportunity to get your bike off the trainer and go outside, even if it's just like half an hour, because there is going to be a world of difference between riding on the trainer and riding outside. You ride on the trainer, probably the more longer rides is going to be more indicative of how that seat's going to feel. But you do want to test them out. Don't just test it once for 30 minutes, like, whatever. It's going to take some time. So allow time to really get used to the seat, because it's going to be different. It's going to hit the inner thigh different, especially if you go with a split nose. It's going to hit your rear end a little bit different seats hitting different places. So you look just at the difference in these seats. I mean, there's different areas that are going to support different features of your body, especially when you go from male to female. There's different parts that need special support and consideration, and special parts that you don't want running on a saddle all the time. So you really need to get multiple tries in. And like I said, I highly recommend getting outdoors and getting a ride in, especially on pavement and bumps, anything, chip seal, whatever you're going to be riding on. Get some real world feel, especially when you get a demo seat. Another key factor is, if you're not in a situation where you get a demo seat, like I said, try to find that most expensive saddle. Even if it's a model that you're interested in and it's used, buy it off eBay and just try it out. And if it's great, then you know that you're safe in investing. And I do mention that they're a little bit pricey for different kinds of seats, but in the long run, especially for you guys where the seats sit and rub, there's always information out there that this does cause problems, especially ladies too. It rubs in sensitive areas. If you're going to be doing this for a long period of time, even if you're doing it for one season training for an Ironman, you don't want damage done to very sensitive areas. So this is something, it's not aero, it's not saving weight necessarily, it's not anything like that, but this could be an opportunity to kind of save yourself some anguish and suffering later, to put it down a little bit more investment, especially if you're going to be doing this long term. It can make the world of difference between being comfortable and very uncomfortable. Because if you're going numb in certain body parts where you're doing rides, that is not good. And with this seat, I was not going numb anymore. A seat like this, sometimes I'll go a little numb. But this one was a little bit wide. Like I said, I went with COP 55, a little slimmer, kind of on the inside, hit my inner thighs a little bit wrong, caused a little bit, maybe kind of muscle crampiness. It was weird. So it is worth the extra value in looking at a seat that works well for you, that you can put it on your bike and then start riding around. You don't have pain, you don't have discomfort, don't have numbness. So we're not just talking about, getting aggressive, getting aero, race wheels, race helmet. Things are kind of superfluous. You get a helmet, you can get wheels, and you can still do the race. But a seat is not as superfluous because it can cause serious injuries later on. So be smart about where to invest your money. I think this is a good place to invest in, kind of looking, especially in off season. So like I said, a lot of time to really get used to the seat. So if you ride it and it feels pretty decent, you're like, okay, I want to invest some money, and you get in there, and for the first few weeks, it's still a little uncomfortable. You need to allow some time, especially when I went from just kind of a standard seat to a split nose seat. It's a little bit shorter in the nose. It took time to get used to it, and especially when I switched to the top 55, it's going to take time. It's going to take weeks. It could take a month or two, especially depending on the off season, how much time you're riding on your bike. You're spending outside, especially if you go indoors to outdoor, the spring hits, and it feels a little bit different, a little bit uncomfortable. Give it some time. If it still doesn't feel uncomfortable after 2 or 3 weeks, and you've gotten at least 2 or 3 rides in a week, doing 3 to 4 hours total, still feels not right, then it might be time to take a look at a few different other seats. But give it time, especially let your sit bones and everything kind of get used to it. You also need to be careful because some of these seats are built a little differently. So if you look at an under part, especially where you have to sit your bike on the bike racks. So this one, usually you can sit it with the nose. These, you could sit on the nose, but if you can't get your bike up underneath, there's an opportunity, especially if you have rear water bottle cages that hook up underneath. So this is probably a bad example because this was broken down to put in my suitcase. But if you got water bottle holders that hook up underneath, especially if they hook up to this part. You know, maybe you could hook it onto here. You don't have the rear water bottle cages. I know, you know, ISM is good. They have this little lip here that will keep your rear end of your bike, because you're not supposed to rack by handlebars. So you can rack it by this little tab and it'll sit right on there. Otherwise, standard seat, usually you just put on those, not a problem. But these ones you gotta be a little bit more careful with. And especially if you put water bottle holders, then suddenly you have no accessibility to that little hook. I have found that I could put it up over the bar and catch it with this, and it's secure enough that it'll support it. So just make sure your seat is compatible with all your other components you're going to be using. So if you're using a hydration system that goes to the underside of your seat, make sure you have enough railing to get it on. If you notice, these railings are a little bit different. So this one actually gives me a little less flexibility to move around. So that's another, kind of goes in the bike fit. If you need to move your seat backwards and forwards to be able to get to the cockpit, you move your body forward to be on the pedals in the right way, notice that there's a little bit of loss. So if I stay with the standard seat and I go with the ISM, I actually get a little bit more play. But then I lose the ability, this is a little bit more angled, you know, if I'm using a seat attachment or using a hydration attachment system, you know, it may not work with this one. So you got to be careful, and that's why I love the demos. Get them out, make sure your water system, hydration system, whatever components that go to your seat, even if it's a flat tire spare kit, make sure it still works. Put it all on your bike like you would on race day. Make sure it works, especially if you're going to get a demo and before you spend that money later on. Or you do buy the seat, and then you get to race week and you try to put your hydration system on, you're like, oh crap, it doesn't work. You don't want to be stuck having to make an important decision of how I'm gonna wrangle up my hydration system if it doesn't fit on your seat. You don't want to change your seat out that early or that close to a race. So just be careful. Rails are different. Everything's different, you know, when you go from one significant model to the other. So just watch out if it's compatible with other components. And last, I have my bike fit guy, and I've done several talks about bike fits and the strategies behind them. Get a bike fit guy. Get a guy on board that's local, that's been around for a while, and be consistent. Every year, schedule a bike fit just like you would bike maintenance, and bring your seat. That's where I've gotten the most input from bike seats. Kind of like I said, I was going with this. It came stock with my Quintana Roo PR6, and after a while, it just stopped working. It was rubbing the inner thighs and causing problems. So he suggested the Cop 55, and it works like a charm. Same exact kind of similar setup. Seat's a little bit different, but a little bit wider in the seat and actually slimmer in the nose. So it's a lot more comfortable for me to sit on, especially for extended periods of time. So find your bike fit guy. If you don't have a bike fit guy, find somebody that's a fitter and see if they'll have a few suggestions for you. A lot of bike shops will have kind of fitter guys that can give you better suggestions, but usually, unless it's a multi-sport shop, they won't necessarily be thinking about, you know, the multi-sport Ironman distance stuff. You know, bike racing is somewhat similar, but usually bike racers are standard seats and are not worried about splitting those stuff. So talk with your bike fit guy, get a process, figure out what works. Like I said, try it out, give it some time, pick the right seat, because a lot of people kind of ignore this and they kind of just accept, well, it's going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to go numb, and that's just the way it is until I get off the bike. That's not the way it has to be. If this standard seat works for you, that's great. Carry on, go with it. But if you're having problems with numbness, saddle sores, just rubbing your wrong places, now's the time in the off season to go out and consider possibly a different seat, because it is worth the investment. Like I said, there's specific health issues that could come up if you don't address how that seat sits and how your body reacts and feels to it. So make sure you spend the time, spend the investment, because it is worth it. Hopefully that helped you out, and we'll see you in the next video.